Yo, what is good, Joe? It is your boy Leaf Diggy, aka Leaf 4788, aka Leaf. And on this video, I have to tell the unspoken truths about one Steph Curry. A minute, let me get my thing. I have to tell the unspoken truths about Steph Curry. Um, Before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to everybody online, everybody on YouTube. Like and subscribe. If you coming into the page, leave your comments or whatever. Like or subscribe page, appreciate it. I wanted to speak on this situation because there was a lot of Steph glazing going on the Players Choice show earlier. There's been a lot of Steph glazing over the last I guess decade, if you want to say. Personally, I think it's despicable. I think it's one of those things, man, where it's just like, are we serious? Are we serious, man? And one of the things I wanted to speak on first is that I've talked with a good deal of people, and I had to tell them that Steph is really not a superstar. It's not, never has been. What Steph Curry is a superstar specialist. That's what Steph Curry is. He's very elite at one thing. Okay, mid, not that good at everything else. Once the system starts to break down, Steph Curry breaks down. There was a conversation earlier about Steph Curry at his best and D Rose at his best. And believe me, Steph at his best was every bit of what we entitled. But if anybody believes that Steph Curry could have did for that Bulls team what Derrick Rose did in that season, they are sadly mistaken. D Rose was basically carrying the load pretty much the entire time. I mean, sure, the Chicago Bulls, they did have 50-win seasons and 40-win seasons after that season. But that year, D Rose was on another level. And that was the year where LeBron had just went to Miami and basically tried to hijack the Eastern Conference, which he ended up doing remotely. But D Rose problem was, realistically, he was, at that time, he was still somewhat one-dimensional. He was really a downhill super athlete at the one, doing a lot of things he really didn't have no business doing. And although Steph Curry at that time was only averaging 19 points, I think any version of Steph that you put with them, Steph gets neutralized. One of the reasons, which is because you have Tom Thibodeau, who basically runs through players the same as Mike Shanahan does. If you don't know who Mike Shanahan is, look him up. He basically runs through everybody. But the thing about Steph in that era, even though the Bulls was very highly potent defensively, they would find ways to neutralize Steph, because all you had to do is neutralize D Rose, which was kind of hard to do unless you were the Miami Heat. But finding ways to neutralize Steph during that time, it was pretty easy. All you had to do was just run the shooters off the line. They didn't have any other shooters like that. Think who else they had? They had Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I don't even know if Ben Gordon was on the team. I think Ronnie Brewer was on the team. Who else they had? I could go check out their roster right now. Look. Go check out their roster. 2010-2011 Bulls, 62 games. Check out that roster. Sorry about that. Check out that roster. That 2011 Bulls team, it has some players on that team. But the problem was a player at the likes of Steph Curry just wasn't a thing. Just wasn't a thing during that time. So it would have been hard for him to muster up this type of performance without having some spacing, without having some structure. Now look at the guys you got on this team. You got Luol Deng, Boozer, Ronnie Brewer, Noah, Todd Gibson, Keith Bogans, Kyle Korver, Watson, Omer Ashik, who stole some money from Houston, and good old Kurt Thomas. That ain't getting it. Not with this roster. Not with this roster. I'm not sure if you could just put anybody, any version of Steph with this roster, and they can be 60 wins. I'm not sure of that. Not with the way Tom Thibodeau was running this crew. He was running them to the ground. He was running these dudes to the ground. A lot of dudes was being run to the ground by Tom Thibodeau. Let's go back. Let's take a look at the roster most of the year. I'm looking at this roster. I don't really see how and what was going on with this roster without D Rose to make these dudes like anything. So if anybody believes that any version of Steph Curry would have led this roster to the Eastern Conference Finals, I will question that all day. Another untruth that was spoken about Steph Curry today is that he was a top 10 player in 2014. By the end of 2014, he was a top 10 player. I don't know how. I really don't know how. Let's check this out. I decided to look this up earlier. Hold on. Let's take a look. Let's take a look real quick. People seem to get confused of like who Steph Curry truly is. But I want to remind people, Steph Curry is a superstar specialist. And there was a lot of those going on. LeBron was a superstar athlete. Let's take a look. What was going on with Steph during that time? Hold up. Okay. So you got Kevin Durant, Melo, LeBron, Kevin Love, Harden, Blake, Steph at 7, Aldridge, Boogie, DeRozan, all top 10 scorers that year. Al Jefferson, Paul George, Dirk, AD, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, here's the problem that we run into with some of these averages. We got to remember that year, Steph Curry did not make it out of the first round of the playoffs. And he dropped, and his percentages dropped significantly in the playoffs. LaMarcus Aldridge's numbers went up in the playoffs. He was averaging 23 and 11 in the regular season. He went up to about 26. And he got out of the first round as the go-to guy on his team. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the year that Damian Lillard hit that game winner to send the Portland Trailblazers out of the first round for the first time since that 2000 series against the Lakers. So you have that. Another thing you have. Hold on 1 second. I didn't even bring up some of the other players because Russ that year only played 46 games. I brought up Russ earlier in the chat on PC. I brought up Russ earlier, who only played 46 games that year, which is one of the reasons why Kevin Durant won MVP. Because he was going crazy that year. James Harden, who had Dwight Howard. I didn't bring up Tim Duncan, even though he was all NBA and all defensive team that year in 2014. I didn't bring up D Wade, who probably made an all NBA team that year as well, or Bosh. I didn't bring up Bosh that year. We brought up Kevin Durant. We brought up Melo, LeBron. I left Kevin Love out because he didn't make the playoffs. So really, Aldridge really has a conversation being in that top 10 that year. This is 2014 we talking about. So if I had to say, I say Steph was fringe top 10 that year. He was fringe. He was working his way towards the top 10. And then basically the next year, he kind of just stabbed it. Hold on. A woman friend at a swim party. Yeah. Yeah, man. So basically, all you really have. Hold on. Hmm. Hmm. Now, one of the things I concur to is that Steph Curry is indeed, undoubtedly, the greatest three-point shooter of all time. He's the greatest three-point shooter of all time, by far. There's no doubt in my mind that he's that. If you want to go by volume and numbers, everybody's gonna say he's the greatest shooter of all time, whatever. To me, he's the greatest three-point shooter of all time. There's no discussion there. By makes, by percentage of makes, by volume, high volume, whatever you want to call it. The problem that I have with that list is that James Harden is probably going to finish his career at number 2 on that list. That's the problem that I'm having with that list. So that list really, it's really an unused list. You know what I'm saying, man? For Steph, Steph is a very unique talent, but it's really an unused list in his ability to make shots. The problem with it is if it comes out 10 years from now that Steph was shooting with a gravity ball, then it all gets erased. All of it gets erased. If we get caught shooting with a magnet ball, then that's it. All of it gets erased. And all of the Steph fans, man, everybody looked up to him. Oh, man, how could they do this, man? It ain't like he did it. The NBA did it because they got to sell Steph. They have to sell them. They have to sell them because they never seen anything like that before. James Harden opening up the game the way he did, man, there was a lot of cheating going on. It was a lot of bending the rules going on. But for majority of these scorers, I say outside of Carmelo and maybe a few other guys on this list that I'm seeing, and this is the 2014 season, a lot of these scorers was one-dimensional. Except for Carmelo, Kyrie, Dirk, like a handful of scorers that weren't really one-dimensional players. Dirk was mainly an offensive player. Kevin Durant was mainly an offensive player. I mean, you had a lot of that going on, even in the years prior. But the thing is about the scorers in this year, and as opposed to the scorers in the early 2000s, a lot of those dudes came in as athletes, guys that could get to the basket, guys that could finish at the basket, finish in contact at the basket. Not too many of these dudes on this list was finishing in contact at the basket. It was good. They was pretty good scores. But these early 2010s, nobody on this list is really moving me. Nobody. I'm sorry. Melo, of course, man. Melo, one of my favorites. Dirk, of course, one of my favorites. But Blake wasn't moving me. Harden wasn't moving me. LaMarcus Aldridge, man, he was too stiff in the post. Boogie was basically the bridge to Joel and Joker. Al Jefferson was the one-hand bandit. AD was always a rim runner. He wasn't as complete as he became. Dame wasn't logo Dame at that time, but he was still averaging 20. Isaiah Thomas was averaging 20. He wound up averaging 29 with the Celtics. So it was a lot of stuff going on, man, during this time. So if Steph Curry was a top 10 player during this year, man, that's not really saying much. That's not really saying much. I'm sorry. That ain't really moving me. Everybody knows Steph Curry is a front runner. So that ain't really moving me too much. But I would have to say that Steph Curry was fringe top 10. Fringe. He was a good fringe top 10 for me. Yeah, man. Steph was fringe top 10 to me. He wasn't top 10 this year. I'm sorry. It's a good try though, but he wasn't. No. I also wanted to go over this upcoming season about the top 10 teams in the East and the West. The Eastern Conference seems like it's going to be probably the same teams. If I had to say, probably the same team. The Western Conference, however, it seems like it's going to be different teams this time around. You had the Kings that exploded for 48 wins. That could possibly happen again with the way the West is shaped out. If you look at teams like the Rockets, Spurs, Rockets got better, the Spurs got better. The Blazers, they look like they want to tank. Utah, they was the first overall pick away from being better. Dallas, I don't know. I'm really on the fence with Dallas. All of the young basketball fans, they seem to like OKC a lot. I think if the ball stays in SGA's hand, they could be a force to be reckoned with. They're very top heavy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so the Timberwolves, I would really like somebody's opinion on how the Timberwolves would finish. On where and how the Timberwolves would finish, man. Cause I don't really see the Timberwolves really doing too much of nothing. I think the Timberwolves. I don't know. I like the Timberwolves. I'm out on the Timberwolves. Maybe the Pelicans. I might be out on them too. I was high on them last year, but Zion is. I don't know what's. Yeah, that is a situation that's getting darker and darker. The Clippers don't know. They gonna be in the hunt. The Grizzlies, I think, have more grit and more adults in the locker room now. Obviously, with Marcus Smart, D Rose in the locker room, man, I think they're gonna get a lot more potent, and they're gonna become a lot more. They're gonna become a lot more of one of those teams, man, that's gonna get a little bit more serious. That's gonna get a lot more focused, man. They got to get somebody in that locker room that's gonna hold shit down. Will the Denver Nuggets finish number one again in the West? I highly doubt it. They were top heavy, but the losses of Bruce Brown, the loss of Jeff Green, I just don't know. Because Bruce Brown was like really, really, he came up very, very huge for their team. No pun intended. Like, listen, he's playing big minutes for their team, man. Playing excellent for their team. One of the big reasons why they won the championship. If I had to see, I gotta rearrange this around. I probably gotta do a list. Probably gotta see if I could do me a list real quick. So I don't hold up. I don't know if I have Excel, but I gotta see if I could run me a list. So, but let's see what the Rockets. The Rockets and seem to be a team that could leap to about a good 30 something wins this year. They could leap about another 15 plus wins. Who knows, man? Who knows? Who knows? The Warriors, they still gonna be in it. The Warriors are still gonna be top 8. The Lakers, they might get pushed, just for ratings and everything. Everybody know the Lakers are gonna get carried by the referees. They can't afford to leave the Lakers out because they don't know how to sell anything. But most of the teams in the West, most of the teams in the Western Conference, they all look top heavy. They all look like they're gonna lean on their starting fives to carry them, or they starters to carry them. They don't look like they really have a deep enough bench or deep enough anything to carry. Hold up, my man. It's at night. Our defense looks sturdy. I'm gonna get on with them. Yeah. I'm gonna get on with you in a minute. I'm gonna get on with you in a minute, Breeze. But yeah, man. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. I do not know. Let's take a look at the East. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference. Now, the Eastern Conference, obviously, Boston has a loaded team. Miami have regressed. I think they really looking for that Dame deal. The Bucks have re-signed some pieces. They got Malik Beasley, I believe. The Knicks, I think they picked up another Villanova dude. And DiVincenzo. They still looking for Mikal Bridges, man. I'm like, yo, as a Nets fan, I'm sneezing on that shit. I'm like, what are y'all doing? The Hawks have gotten rid of John Collins. Hawks have gotten rid of John Collins. I don't know what that was about. But the Hawks have gotten rid of John Collins. Hold on. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So the Raptors, I'm not worried about. Who else? Who else? The Raptors, we're not worried about. The Bulls, we're not worried about. Now the story, my Nets, my Brooklyn Nets, man, my city, on stand tall. Shout out to my man, Big Fan Breeze. Um, the Pistons and the Hornets. Um, hold on a second.
slapstick. Hold on. Let me say this.